Welcome to The Read Along,
a mini book club for your ears.
I'm your host, Scott.
I'm your other host, Anita.
And join us on a journey through a good book,
one chapter at a time.
Do you like talking about movies? Do you like talking about mediocre movies? Do you like talking about how you could have fixed mediocre movies? Well, I certainly do, and you can listen to me, Scott C. Bourgeois, along with my co-hosts Greg Beaver and Liam Creswick, as we give our notes in I Have Some Notes. You can follow it now on your podcatcher of choice or support it by visiting patreon.com/I Have Some Notes. Before we began recording today, we were talking about what we do in the shadows.
The series, we've been mainlining it for the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, it was one of those ones that kind of passed us by when it first went up. And I mean, we'd seen the movie, the original film.
Yes.
So we enjoyed it. So we knew what we were expecting. And we have friends who've seen it and said it was very funny, seen little clips here and there online and stuff. We never actually sat down and watched it. We finally did this week. Past couple weeks, and been quite enjoying it. So, been on a bit of a vampire kick lately.
Yeah, strangely enough, which is fine. We're like a couple books late for being into vampires. We finished the witch book a while back.
It's true,
but it doesn't matter. Everything's great.
So that's what the conversation was. Literally moments before I hit record on this.
Yeah, it's what the conversation's been for probably the last half hour. Or so.
We apparently have thoughts about that show.
Apparently.
But that is not what this podcast is about. We are not a What We Do in the Shadows podcast. And so this is all I will say about it. Instead, we will be talking about our book, which is about a magical heist that probably doesn't have vampires in it. We don't know what Archer is.
Well, he could be.
He could be.
He could be. We might be right on point. We don't know.
Yeah. I guess we'll have to wait and see. But we'll start with a brief recap of Chapter 8 of our novel, in which Dani colors her hair and has a bit of a flashback about what went down when she finally betrayed her mother to the FBI, which involved a little more betrayal on her mother's part than we were expecting, which is something that Dani doesn't really perceive either, actually.
Not really, no.
She doesn't really hold that as much against her mother as she probably should.
Certainly is not as much as I would.
But with that said, we move into Chapter 9 of The Frame Up by Gwenda Bond. So the rest of Maria's old crew rolls up to the stone house.
Well, late, right? Because Dani's pulling the quote-unquote power move of making them come to her.
Yeah, rather than going crawling back to Rabbit's place.
Yeah, and then they, counter power move by showing up late. We will arrive in our own time.
But they do show up. It's Rabbit, Mia, and Elliott.
Yep.
They all saunter into the house and kind of take up their old positions.
Yeah, where they were comfortable once upon a time.
Which Dani finds both a little off-putting and comforting.
Somehow, yeah, at the same time.
She also tells Sunflower to go and, take a breather in the corner.
Yeah, she's like, Sunflower, it's fine. And because Sunflower is uncomfortable this whole time because that dog can read a room.
Yeah, and for that matter, is really in tune with Dani's emotions. And because Dani's off-put about this meeting, Sunflower's on edge. So Sunflower gets told to go take a powder behind the couch.
Sunflower continues to be the goodest girl.
Yeah. So not a lot changes in this chapter. To give a brief summary, they just kind of catch each other up on what's going on with the heist.
Yeah.
Which is not really revealing too much new.
Not really. Mostly this chapter just made me feel uncomfortable because of the tension in the room.
Yeah.
Which I assume is, setting me up for something and giving me a little bit of, character interaction, you know? Yeah,
there's not a lot of full trust in the room, but Rabbit is clearly willing to play ball at this juncture.
Even with all the snarky answers. Dani addresses the elephant in the room, right? Right off the top. She's like, I'd say it's good to see you, but I don't know if it is. And I'm sure you feel the same way. We all know we don't like each other here. But
we have a job to do.
Yeah, but we have a job to do. I do need help, so I'm glad that it's you helping me. Like, this is the worst for everybody, basically. And then they're like, yes, okay, feelings aside, we're all going to be uncomfortable, but let's push through and get some work done.
Yeah. And they begin coming up with the concept of a plan.
Kind of. I do appreciate that Dani isn't keeping anybody in the dark.
No, she kind of lays out everything she knows.
Yeah.
About the Fortress of Art, about Hackworth's collection, about the target, the painting of Archer.
Yeah, the magical setup.
Yeah, the fact that Archer's the one who hired her directly.
Yeah.
She decides to play honestly with them. And I think that is partly an olive branch from her, too. Like, I know that there's not a lot of trust here, so I'm just going to be as upfront and honest with you as possible.
Yeah. And I think Dani's also learned at this point that keeping people out of the loop
doesn't help.
Well,
especially considering, as we've pointed out many times already in this run through the book, Dani feels kind of left out of the loop in a lot of ways. Yeah. On this job. So best that she at least try to keep her crew in the loop, right?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know that she's voiced it very much, but it's something that you and I have definitely noticed.
Yeah.
That there's just large chunks of information missing, and there are people acting like they know things that she should know, but no one is telling her.
Yeah.
Right? So, like I said before, Dani wants everyone in the loop because being out of the loop is bad for the team.
Yeah. Couple points of interest. Rabbit is intrigued by the idea of the magical engine, but Dani points out this isn't the kind of thing that you could probably hack.
Yeah, it's not that kind of engine.
So maybe focus on the security systems for now. Number 2, we find out what the evil twins can do. It turns out Elliott did a job with them some time ago and is aware that they can conjure up illusions, but each of them can only do half the illusion. One of them can do audio, one of them can do video.
Yeah, basically. I called them the AV twins.
Yeah.
Because their magic has to work together, and that's probably a twin thing.
It's very Wonder Twins activate sort of thing.
Yes.
And so, yeah, they can create distractions, which is going to be very useful in a heist scenario, but not very good for them working against them.
Yes.
And Dani, of course, does make it clear, yeah, they're definitely interested in the same target as us. So is Brenner. They might be working together. There's no way to tell.
Yeah, she doesn't know that yet.
And the other thing is that Rabbit rightly points out that this is a heist that will probably take a year to plan. And Dani points out, no, we have a week. That is the entire
6 days, I think, is what we're at.
The family is selling this art collection, and once it's gone, it's gone. There's no telling where this painting might end up. There's no guarantee we'd be able to track it down after. This is the timeline we have. So we just have to make do. So I don't have a plan right now. The best we can do at the moment is just continue to observe and then try to come up with something on the fly.
Well, collecting information to make a plan.
Yeah.
Right? Best they can do.
Yeah. So in the meantime, Rabbit's job is to start poking holes in the security system. Dani's going to paint a forgery based on some materials that Mia's going to collect from their new distributor. And Elliott is going to get a haircut and put on a suit and pretend to be Dani's assistant. Yes. Something that she is super uncomfortable with, but also apparently he's the best schmoozer in the bunch.
Yeah.
That might relate to his magical power.
Probably.
She has hinted he might have some sort of empathic ability or something.
Maybe.
He's like, are you sure that the family's going to be cool with you bringing me in last minute as your assistant? And she's like, I got it. It'll be no problem. Don't worry about it. Because as she points out, because as she thinks to herself, but one thing she doesn't mention to them, she thinks Brad's kind of into her. And so she might be able to use that as a little bit of leverage over him.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. I want to talk about Elliott.
Yes.
Before we end our episode here. It's the very end.
Mm-hmm.
She is seeing everybody out. Rabbit and Mia are in the truck, impatiently waiting for Elliott.
Who hangs back.
Gets super duper close to her and, compliments her hair.
Gets, a little almost creepily flirty.
Right? And so now I'm like, okay, what is his deal? Is he being cruel? Does he genuinely still have an interest in her? Was he testing waters? Does he think that things ended differently than they did? We don't know exactly what the fallout was, and so I don't know what this weird little creepy scene means.
Yeah, because Dani mentions kind of in her internal monologue that she feels betrayed by him. Because when things went south and she had to go solo, she thought that they had something, and he did not choose her.
Yeah.
And that was deeply hurtful to her.
Yes.
Like, he gave her the silent treatment when she showed up the other day, and now all of a sudden in the house, now that they've been released to work with her again, quote unquote,
I hate that word.
he makes kind of a pass at her, and...
Kind of, but not really?
Yeah, like, I agree with you, like he was testing the waters to see where things were at. And it felt awkward enough to me that it made me wonder if there was magic involved.
Maybe.
Like, maybe he does think things ended differently with them because he was told by someone with very persuasive abilities...
Cough, cough, Maria, cough, cough.
...to not go with Dani to punish her.
Right? Right?
Yeah.
So maybe.
So
maybe.
it's possible that now that that's been rescinded, as Maria has suggested was the case...
Yeah, and he's like, oh, everything's fine now.
That he legitimately doesn't realize that things ended badly between them.
I mean, yeah, maybe. There was a line from inside Dani's head about how Elliott's not that cruel until he was.
Yeah.
And then when you suggested that maybe like there was magical interference there, I could see it. Maybe he was under influence, magical influence, to cut her out, to be cruel. And that's not who he is.
Yeah. That is my leading suspicion to what's going on.
I mean,
is that Maria actively was trying to hurt Dani in revenge for being betrayed by her.
Yeah.
Because
based
Maria,
on what we know from Maria, I wouldn't put it past her.
Wouldn't in the slightest put it past her. Not even a little.
I mean, I recognize that we are speculating wildly and irresponsibly, as is our wont.
Yeah.
But I could see it. I could see a world where that exists. If it turns out that way later on in the book, I'll be like, yeah, we called it. Good job, us.
But, we'll have to wait and see.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that more or less wraps up the chapter. Again, there wasn't a lot of new stuff to chew on here.
Well, except the juicy bits about Elliott, but that was like a taster.
So we'll wrap up here for this week.
Yeah.
Maybe next week will be a little bit longer as we move into chapter 10 of our novel, which you want to read up on in time for next week. In the meantime, of course, as always, give us a little rating and review because that helps us out on your podcatcher of choice.
Also, we appreciate it. It's nice to hear from people.
Yeah, we can also be heard from and to on social media.
Absolutely. Pick your poison. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, and Goodreads. We are at the Read Along on most of those.
Yes, you can also send us an email.
Oh, please do. We love email. You can reach us at thereadalong@gmail.com.
With that said, as always, we love you very much, and we'll see you next time.
Sunflower's still the best.
Thank you for joining us on The Read Along with your hosts, Anita and Scott Bourgeois. All Read Along music is by Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com. Cover art is by Aaron Beaver. Be sure to join us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at The Read Along, and check out our group on Goodreads.com.